Alright, maybe I won't stick with that. Okay. How's it going, everyone? Today we're going to be talking about Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Yeah, that was a weird intro, but I'm trying out new things. I want to do a different intro, but I don't know if I'll stick with that one. But with that being said, let's get talking about Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Oh my god, what a great fucking game. Wow, I loved it. I loved it so much. I really did. Every single scene was a fantastic, just fantastic. I got engrossed in it so much. I played 14 hours a day for 4 days straight. I know that's pretty sad, but I was going on holidays in the 4 days. And I was like, all right, so I'll just arrange everything ahead of time. I'll get it all sorted. I'll have nothing to do, no one to talk to. I'll be all good. I got everything sorted, all my arrangements in order, all ready to go. And I had some help from some great people. And then I got to play this game constantly for about 4 days. And then I finished it on the plane. So we were a-okay. And I didn't get to listen to the ending properly because of just reasons, and then I got on the way back I rewatched the ending to get the full experience because I kind of missed the music. I was kind of paying attention to the dialogue and I was focusing on something else, so I missed the whole musical element of the ending and kind of misunderstood a few parts. But we'll talk about that in the spoiler segment when hopefully we get Bob Duncan on for that, but not going ahead just yet. We'll see if he's up for it or not. But that aside, let's talk about the game itself. So we're gonna just talk about the story briefly, right? So obviously it's like about Keves and Agnes and the whole war, their whole big war, and the fact that our party is conceived of the two different countries, like people from the two different countries. You've got 3 from each country, and basically you're like a third faction. You're Ouroboros, as they call it. And this leads to some fascinating things because you have to go back and live through their kind of countries' cultures and stuff. So like you'll have the Keves characters being shocked at how the Agnes characters lived and vice versa. And it's very interesting because they point out the similarities and differences, and they're all fascinated by it. So you have people that see this world through the same lens you do. But also, these characters are amazing. That's one thing I can say about this game wholeheartedly, is it's one of the best casts in video games, man. Every single character is an S tier character in the main cast, okay? You can have characters that are better. Some characters are S plus characters or double S characters. But at bare minimum, every single member of this cast is an S tier character. Fantastic. Absolute 10 out of 10 characters. Some of them take a while to build up, I will say. One of the better ones, in people's opinions overall, is what I'm seeing. In Senna and stuff like that, it takes a while to get going because her backstory requires a lot of information that we weren't able to have until about chapter 4, I believe. Was it? I can't remember. This game has chapters that are about... the first 2 chapters are about 3 hours long each, and then it gets longer and progressively longer. I'm pretty sure the last chapter is like 15 hours. So they get progressively longer as the game goes on. The people originally said the game was 104 hours. I now believe people who said that did all like the hero quests as well, which only about 5 of them are mandatory for the main story, and the rest of them you can do in post game. Also, just a quick tip. New Game Plus is available, but I'd recommend playing through the post-game stuff because you get a few extra things. Also, on top of that, I would say if you want to do New Game Plus at the same time, create a second file so you can have New Game Plus and also have your original save. I made that mistake with 2 and lost my original save of like 120 hours. But with that being said, the gameplay itself is fucking amazing. It is the best versions of every combat system Monolith Soft has worked on that I have played. So basically all the Xeno games, and it's also improving it in a way. Like it's MMO style combat in a way, right? It's improving 2's already fantastic gameplay, incorporating the blade system in a more non-gacha way. So you've got like actual physical blades that you can customize between. So like, for example, let's say I play a sword fighter, right? And I'm slashing things. I can switch to ogre class and have a hammer to smash things. You can switch at some point in the game. You unlock the functionality to basically just play with any class you want. There's about I don't know how many classes there are. In fact, I haven't even unlocked them all yet. I think I have 3 more classes to unlock. But it really dramatically changes the gameplay style, and some characters work better with it than others. For example, with Ogre class, for example, which is the hammer class, I do not like playing as Noah in that class because he just doesn't play well for me personally. Now, obviously, he could play better. But in contrast, I love playing as Lance in that class, even though the original class owner is Senna, who is also obviously amazing in that class because it was built around her in the first place. But there's so much customization to be done in the gameplay. So not only do you have the core gameplay of the more real-time battle system, which is perfected in this, making 2 and 1 look like baby combat systems. You've also got the interlinking, which is basically your Evangelion mode. All right, you turn into a mecha and beat this shit like a human size, like a slightly bigger than human sized mecha, and you get, like, I'd say you get a decent amount of time to beat the shit out of your opponent. And there's some fucking cool shit you can do with that. You've got well, not combos. You do got combos, but the same sort of combos you get in base form, but they're more powerful and quicker to use. And you build it up to an ultimate attack. For Noah, it's one where you're surfing on your blade, and it's really fucking cool. But you've got about... I'm not going to spoil anything else to do with that besides Noah's, because that was in the reveal trailers. But that's a really amazing feature that you don't really understand the full scope of until you get later into the game and you understand it more. And you're able to do different combinations and learn chain attacks. In my opinion, chain attacks is the best it's ever been. I do think 2's chain attacks are great, but the only problem with that was you unlocked that 15 hours in, which was ridiculous and is personally what I think holds back 2 from being the best Xeno game in my opinion. Because although 1 is grindy near the end of the game, you have safe mode and definitive edition, and if you're not like me and don't like to hurt your pride, you can still enjoy that amazing combat system and amazing gameplay, amazing story, without having to struggle through the shitty grindy elements, because you can put it on safe mode and just enjoy the story for the fantastic piece of fiction that Xenoblade 1 is. Whereas Xenoblade 2, you can do the same, but it's still, up until you get chain attacks, it feels slow, but then once you get chain attacks, it's one of the best combat systems in JRPGs, in my opinion. It just takes so long to get. Now, Xenoblade 2 is still, in my opinion, the longest game in the series, so in like, speaking in terms of hour count, okay, you can finish Xenoblade 1, or Xenoblade 1 you can probably finish in 40 to 50 hours. Kind of like Xenoblade 3. If you really... Because what will happen with Xenoblade 3 is you have so much to do. Like, you have a shit ton of stuff to do, okay? You have, like, the main... You have the main story, which is in probably about 40 to 50 hours. And then you've got the hero quests, which are all basically mini stories. They're kind of like the paralogue quests from Fire Emblem. They're fabulous as well. But the thing about them is, a lot of them, like, I would recommend. So you get, like, for example, if I have one that's story required, below that you've got ones that are optional, but they're right behind, like, they're kind of, it looks like they're placed before those characters, and I recommend doing them in that order. Like, when you get a story one, checking which ones you have and doing all the hero quests you have available to you. I feel like that's a good way to play, which will increase your hour count to probably about 70 to 80 hours, maybe even 100. Maybe that's what the reviewers were all talking about. But even so, I'm playing the post game right now, and some of the side quests are revealing stuff that wasn't even revealed in the main story. A lot of the times for me, this game is just so engrossing that you focus entirely on the main story, because the story is fantastic from beginning to end. One story was great. It had an amazing hook, had an entire amazing part of story, like from start to finish. And two kind of took 3 chapters to get going. Right? You had a pretty decent hook, like a pretty good hook, a pretty good cutscenes. Few too much anime tropey bullshit, but it wasn't too bad. Chapter 2 was pretty bad. Like, it wasn't terrible at the beginning, but it was a pretty long chapter, and the second half was pretty bad. Or not the second half, the first half was pretty bad. And chapter 3 is just great all around, but then you slow down at chapter 4, but then it kicks up for the rest of the game at chapter 5, and it's fucking amazing after that. So it's kind of like a thing where Xenoblade 2 has the highest highs before Xenoblade 3, but also a few of the lowest lows. So it's kind of a thing where we're back now to the consistency, but also 3, in my opinion, has the biggest highs in all of RPGs, right? In all the RPGs I've played, I think Xenoblade 3 is just fabulous for a story. And I'd say in terms of stories in general, I know I've been saying RPGs a lot, but just in terms of even film stories and film and TV stories, I'd say Xenoblade could give it a run for its money, a lot of these stories, to be honest with you. It's an amazing Xenoblade 3 especially. And if you've played the other 2 games, it's just an extra bit of like, you know, how do I describe it? It's just an extra bit of like joy is the best way to say it. I could use another word, but I'm not going to do that. And I was just loving every moment of it, to be honest with you. It was so good. I enjoyed sitting there and just playing it and soaking in everything and all the histories of these characters, all their emotions, the story of the worlds that we are playing through in Ionios, the references to previous games. But at the same time, this game is pretty much standalone, exactly like 1 and 2, except for references. So understanding certain parts you might want to play the first and second games, but really they outline it pretty well, and if you're paying attention you'll kind of get it. The only thing you might be missing is like you might not get as hype at like 1 or 2 scenes in the second to last chapter, which is where I like lost my shit. Whereas you, like, for example, I was theorizing with one of my mates, Bob Duncan, for like the entire game, being like, oh shit, what does this mean, what does that mean, because they throw hints at you all the time based on the previous games. And in an interview directing, like the director of the games was like future connected links to 3, so we were all theorizing about that and stuff like that. But if you're just playing the game without any prior knowledge of the 3 games, you'll just enjoy it for what it is. I don't think you'll get as hyped and theorizing at certain moments like we did, but you will just enjoy the fantastic story in its own right. You might not be as theorize as much, and you might get hyped at different moments, because I feel like we got super hyped for reasons based on our playing of the old game for like the earlier parts of it. But then you'll get hyped at just the general character moments and stuff that we also got hyped on. This game looks amazing. Visually, I think the cutscenes especially fucking fantastic. They spend so much effort on the voice acting, the music, and the animation. For this stuff is great. The story is well paced in my opinion. As I've said before, that is one of my bigger problems with 2. I feel like 2's first half is pretty badly paced, because you've got chapter 3, which is pretty fucking great. You've got chapter 1, which is pretty great. But then you've got a kind of slow first halves to every other chapter until chapter 5. Even chapter 5, I'd say, has a slow first half of a chapter. Just like Xenoblade 2. The chapters in Xenoblade 3 are pretty long, but they are great from beginning to end. There's no slow half of these chapters. They're just great. Some chapters you might find a little slow near the end because, you know, lore dumps if you're not into that. But as someone who's big into the Xenoblade series, the lore was just as hype as the action stuff, you know what I mean? So I wasn't upset at all. And the music, oh my god, the music. I'm telling you right now, in my opinion, the Xenoblade series as a whole, in my opinion, can only be competed in terms of like consistent top musical like soundtracks by the Pokemon series. And I know that's a weird claim to make, but come on. No matter how shit a Pokemon game is, right? If it's bad, no one's gonna give out about the music, because the music is always top notch. It might not be the greatest soundtrack of all time. Like, you wouldn't listen to a Pokemon soundtrack and think it's the greatest soundtrack of all time, but it's always fucking great. A Pokemon soundtrack, no matter what soundtrack it is always a 9 out of 10 soundtrack at minimum, because they just do so well. You know what I mean? And I think Xenoblade, although I believe a lot of their soundtracks could be considered some of the best soundtracks in gaming or in RPGs more specifically, because I don't listen to a lot of soundtracks outside of that because it's, you know, of multiplayer games. I don't really listen to the soundtrack of multiplayer games. So in case a multiplayer game has like fabulous fucking music and I'm not paying attention to it, I'm not going to say of all games. But no, Xenoblade has the consistency of Pokemon and just excels, right? It really does. It excels to great heights in its musical performances. And we get a couple of songs with really good vocals as well. Because obviously for a lot of the hyper moments they have vocals in the music. And it works so well. It's like hearing an anime opening or ending at the climax of a season, you know, when the MC fights against the main villain. It's that sort of emotion, and it really brings it out on you. The ending especially, I'm not going to talk about it, but like, the game, you think the game is going to end at multiple points, but then you understand, when it ends, you will really understand, that was like, you just sit there, pretty speechless to how they handled this. Now, obviously I can come at it from a first-timer's perspective, so maybe without all the information that I have, you might not be as speechless as some people are if you're playing Xenoblade 3 first. But in my opinion, the ending is the best in the Xenoblade series. I think one's ending, okay, I know I'm comparing it a lot to the other games, but I just want to do that to show you how much I love this game. Because for context, I streamed Xenoblade 1 on Twitch and then on YouTube. And as you know, near the end I got very frustrated because I had to grind so much, and it was pretty bad. Now, to be fair, that was my 6th playthrough, so I kind of got fed up with it. And in my other playthroughs, I'd play it on the couch or while I'm listening to a podcast, so the grinding didn't bother me as much. So I would always recommend with 1, if you're playing it, I'd recommend if you don't have a lot of time just to play it on easy mode or safe mode, because then you can just enjoy the story and the gameplay for what it is and the fabulous effort Monolith have put into it. But I will say the ending of Xenoblade 1 is fantastic, and the ending of 2 is also fantastic. But I do think 3's is the best, in my opinion. Now, I'm not going to spoil the ending. I'm just going to hype this game up, because that's what I'm going to do. Alright, lads. This game is fantastic. It really is. Everything about it, from the music, from the characters, from the gameplay, from the animations, from the side quests, you know, everything about this game is top notch. In my opinion, it's my favorite game of all time. I knew, once I hit a certain point in the game, I knew it was my favorite game of all time. And you'd be surprised, that point in that game isn't as far as I know, it is not a required quest that I was like, best game of all time. I was thinking it for a bit, but what really decided it for me was a particular quest, because it shows the amount of like really good character writing that this game development team has put into these games, because it shows you they have real emotions that you may have experienced yourselves, where they show off real human emotions, right? It's not like real fake anime bullshit emotions or fake like TV drama emotions, you know what I mean? They show off, the main story is pretty corny, and I'm not gonna lie with that there, but the main characters and their journeys, they show off proper human emotions. And characters like Senna, Lanz's journey, thinking he's just the Ryan type himbo character, he has so much to him, and if the story focuses on it, great. Noah and Mio's relationship, you know, and even Uni is hilarious with her PG-13 swearing, boys. That shit does be hilarious, I'm not gonna lie. Bollocks! Oh, it's great to see someone say bollocks, man. It really is. It's great to see a Xeno character say bollocks. As an Irishman, I love it. I love it greatly. But I will say, this game, if you want to pick it up, I'm telling you, it's going to be one of the greatest gaming experiences you'll ever have. Would I recommend playing the first 2 games first? I think you will get slightly more out of it if you do, but you're not going to get too much more out of it. Like, you can still play the 3rd one first, because I played 2 before I played 1, because that was what came out the year I bought the Switch, so I was like, I'll play it. I was basically playing anything that came out on Switch in 2017, right? But if I was to recommend it and you wanted to play it, play 1 and 2 first. If you want to get through them quick, play them on safe mode or easy mode, because I get that, okay? I get, because the stories of these 3 games, this trilogy of games, is honestly one of the best stories ever told. Combined as a trilogy, it's one of the best stories ever told, in my opinion, across all media. It's a fantastic story with fantastic characters in each entry, all culminating in the developers and everyone involved in it basically reaching the highest heights that I've seen them reach in this series. Now, I haven't played Xenogears or Xenosaga, which are series they've developed before that are mostly unrelated to Xenoblade. So I can't say that for certain because they might have had better games than those, but I'm only comparing the games that I've played from Monolith Soft. And honestly, it's easy for me to say now that not only is Xenoblade 3 my favorite game of all time, but Monolith Soft is by far my favorite video game developer. And it's all, in my opinion, their greatest work is all on Nintendo Switch. You can get Xenoblade 1, Xenoblade 2, and Xenoblade 3 on Nintendo Switch, on the go. You can play the Xenoblade series wherever. You could play every Xenoblade game besides X, which is like a side game which isn't related at all to any of the previous games. So that's it's more of an MMO sort of game, an open world MMO Xenoblade game, but it's kind of completely separate. But you can play the main 3 games, the main Xenoblade trilogy, all on the Nintendo Switch in the comfort of your toilet. Hell, you could play it in the bath if you wanted to. Just don't drop it just don't drop it. You know? You could play it on a plane like I did for the ending. You know what I mean? You could do loads. You could play it anywhere. And that's what makes not only the Switch, but these series great, because you can play them anywhere and they're such great stories. And honestly, I was fascinated throughout. I haven't had an experience where I was so engrossed in a video game where I couldn't stop playing for years now. I haven't had a game in years that made me put everything to the side, made me prepare everything so I wouldn't have to do shit. Now, I did still keep it with me health, obviously. I started doing push-ups instead. Just be like, alright, this is a quick thing I can do to maintain. You know what I mean? Quick something I could do every break or whatever. Something that's, you know what I mean? This game honestly hooked me entirely. It's one of the best experiences I've had playing a video game ever. And I'm proud to call it my favorite game of all time. And I honestly think you'd get a lot out of it. I think everyone would. And shit. I talked for ages. We'll see how this video turns out. I kind of just went off the cuff. And to be honest with you, if you do anything with this video, I would really recommend playing Xenoblade 3. It is, in my opinion, the best experience you can have playing a video game, but obviously different strokes for different folks, obviously. And yeah, please, if you do anything else after watching this video, play Xenoblade 3. And with that being said, why are you watching me now for? Get on and play it. Alright, bye everyone.